Hey everyone, it's Duan here. Before we get this podcast started, I would like to read off a disclaimer. This video and audio contains sensitive and emotional content. We at the One and Only Podcast strive and believe that we cover all our bases by letting you know this has to do with mental illness, racial inequality, and marriage counseling. Although we are a positive media only, we would like for you to know what you are watching and listening to. Thanks for listening and enjoy the podcast.
I am the John Dada showstopper. Right now is the one and only, no other. Just pulled up, lifted, and persisted, ignoring my voice of reason. I've seen things that I'll never mention. I've seen people do more for attention. Here comes Mr. Know-It-All. I know so much, but I don't listen. Lord knows that I feel that pressure. God, please forgive me for stressing. Just pulled up, lifted, and persisted, ignoring my voice of reason. I've seen things that I'll never mention. I've seen people do more for attention. Here comes Mr. Know-It-All. I know so much, but I don't listen. Lord knows that I feel that pressure. God, please forgive me for stressing.
Hello and welcome to another episode of the One and Only Podcast. Today I'm super excited. Not only is she a special guest, she is my sister. She is a real estate agent, and she is also has her license, professional license in counseling. Miss Elizabeth Hill.
Hi.
What up, sis?
Hey.
Now, this episode is going to be different just because she is my sister, and I really want this to be super authentic, and I want everyone to know that this is truly a conversation that we're going to be having today. Some questions are going to be a little bit different than my usual questions, so I do want to prepare my viewers and listeners that this might be a little uncomfortable at times as I'm asking these questions and she's answering them. So, first of all, how you doing, sis?
I'm good. I'm good.
Okay. All right. Well, let's get right into it. What was your educational preparation to pursue counseling?
Well, I have my master's in community counseling from OSU. Go Pokes.
Go Pokes.
My undergrad is actually in business. And counseling, in my opinion, is one of those things that sometimes people are born to be counselors, and I say that because do you ever have a friend that everybody always goes to and say, hey, this is what's going on, and they kind of just like
spill it to you?
Yes.
Yeah.
And you can meet a stranger, and the stranger tends to just spill their guts. Though that's what I mean about being a natural counselor. And so as I was just working and kind of exploring the things that I like to do, I decided to pursue my education in counseling.
Absolutely.
And so, OSU. Got
you. So would you say that was kind of one of those things where you just felt like you were bred to do it? You were just like, you know what? I'm already doing this, so let me go ahead and go to school for it and try it out as a career.
I do, and I love people. I mean, and it's just kind of one of those things that I'm all about empowering people. Even on the real estate side, I utilize those skills because I'm hearing what people say and what they're not saying. And as a therapist, that's our job, is to hear the hurts and the pains of the people, whatever they bring to you. We're there just as a tool to help them navigate through life.
Absolutely.
So
I believe everybody needs counseling, including myself, which brings me to my next question, which is, how important do you believe mental health is, and how can it impact yourself, and how it can impact others around you as well?
Mental health is really important, especially, I mean, mental health is really the emotional well-being of a person. It has to do with their mindset. It has to do with how they operate, how they raise kids, how they manage, if they're living to their full potential. I mean, mental health affects the entire person. And it's very important. If you think about up until last year when the pandemic started, one of the reasons why I feel as a mental health professional that anxieties are higher now is because now the state of the world is making them stay home. The state of the world is making them focus on things that they didn't have to focus on because they were making themselves busy. They were you know, their coping skills may have been, oh, I'm going to throw myself into the work environment, or I'm going to do X, Y, and Z. Whereas now, because of social distancing, because of things are being closed and just things that are outside of their control, is making them be still. And because they're being still, they're really seeing that there's some stuff I'm jacked up, or there's some issues that I need to deal with, but I want to avoid them.
Got you.
It's imperative to really work on your mental health.
Got you. And yeah, I believe that too. I seen something on it was on one of the news channels. I couldn't remember, and it was like saying that some of the divorce rates were kind of going up because they had to truly stay home with their spouse and for a long time, other than the honeymoon.
Right.
But I'm saying, like, as far as like them being there and truly getting to know each other, they were like, man, I don't know if I can do this. Or it was, you know, the kids, you know, they didn't have to be at home with the kids so many days, 2-3 weeks at a time. And now they really don't truly know what to do. So I definitely get what you're saying on that. With that being said, because I believe truly everybody needs to talk to someone, how would somebody pick a therapist?
Well, you have to start. And the reason I say you have to start, there's not a magic instructions that I can give. Say, hey, go. You just start by going and look online, asking people, hey, do you know any good therapists? Because a therapist is just like a doctor in the sense of when you sit in front of them, it's all about the connection. And if you don't feel a connection with that person, then they're probably not going to be the best therapist for you. Now, I do believe that you need to give them at least one or, well, for sure, 2, maybe 3 times to kind of connect, to see like their style. Because you really don't know if you have that ability to connect if you just automatically discount them on the first. Now, there could be something that you're just not feeling. I mean, it just really depends on the person. But I feel like give a person a try, and then if it's just not that connection, then I would say seek out other options. Because, you know, again, I use the reference as a doctor. When you go into a doctor's, and if the person doesn't have good bedside manner, you know, you want to go
somewhere else.
Right. And that's the same as a therapist. Because at the end of the day, we're all human. And there's some humans that connect better than others.
Yeah.
So I just say, just start. Online is a good resource. Psychology Today, people advertise on Psychology Today. And it kind of gives a little bit of their bio and the style of therapy that they do. And okay, again, just talk.
Just talk to somebody. And that just kind of rolls into my next question as well, because like now a lot of athletes, famous people, famous actors or whatever, they're dealing with depression and or you know, mental health issues, and it used to be kind of swept under the rug a lot of the time. It was a stigma that, you know, this is true, they're just crazy. It's not that, you know, their mental health was wrong, nothing was wrong with their mental health. Oh, they're just crazy. And that's how they kind of swept it under the rug. And I say that to say that money can't solve all your problems. It doesn't matter how famous you are. That's not going to solve all your problems. Why do you think people are taking more account in it in 2020, 2021 than they did back in the day?
Well, a couple of reasons. One is the pandemic. I mean, everybody's stuck. I say stuck, but you know what I mean? Everybody, it's a level playing field. That's one of the things that the pandemic has to a certain degree. Now, we could be stuck in a house, you know, that's less than 1,000 square feet, and you can be stuck in a house that's over 20,000 square feet. But the whole point is we're stuck with ourselves. And we're having to deal with, there's no distractions. The distractions have been actually stopped or slowed down. And then you think about the newer generations. When I think about culture, the black culture, we are growing as a people, and so we're starting to expand our friends, and we're starting to listen to our friends and realize that it's okay to be like, hey, I need help. There's something going on with me, and I don't want to self-sabotage, or I don't want to self-medicate, or I don't, fill in the blank. And so it's more or less, they're normalizing the just the opportunity to go get help, and getting help is not a sign of weakness. And whereas
I think that was that's our culture. Like, we don't feel like mental health is an issue. I've heard this before. I'm Black. I don't have mental issues. I don't deal with none of that. And I'm just like, man, everybody deals with something. So with that being said, I definitely understand what you're saying, and I definitely agree with you on that our community as a whole is trying to grow on that. But no, continue. I'll let you finish what you were saying.
No, I just agree. I mean, it's just
one thing after another. It's really one thing after another, and we're going to get back to that. But I wanted to ask you on this topic that more people that are married and go to counseling, they have a more high rate of staying married than people that don't go to counseling. Why do you think that is? And is it a trend that should be, really be talked about in the community as a whole?
Absolutely. I mean, I just think anytime you put forth something that's important to you by learning about something to help you be a better communicator, a better conflict resolution, understanding another person's point of view, and having someone there as a therapist to be like that third person that is not emotionally connected to either party. So they're just sitting there listening. It's like you're bringing me the situation, and I'm listening to hear what is being said, or what is being missed, or what is broken. Sometimes it helps to hear from a different perspective. Prime example. So when mom used to tell you things, and you would say, and then somebody else would tell you something, you said, well, it just sounds better from somebody else. Did you say that?
I did. I said it a lot. Said it a lot, yeah.
Okay. And it's the same thing when you have two married people who are just like this, going at it, and then you have that third person, and it's not about taking sides. It's about being, I don't want to say a referee, but a mediator, someone who's going to help people to kind of figure out the areas that are cracked or broken, what I mean? And to kind of bring them back to, as being one.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I definitely believe in marriage counseling. Everybody that's listening, I have been to marriage counseling myself. So I definitely had to put myself in, not necessarily check, but in reason with my wife, and try to work on it every day. Marriage is not easy at all. And I'm definitely working on it every single day.
It's not. Hold on, let me say this. And it's because I think society thinks that, what he gonna do for me, or what she gonna do for me. It's not about, it's what we can do together. You know what I mean? You have to be whole. Two wholes make a whole. A whole. You know what I mean? I've heard people say a half and half make a whole. No, two wholes make a whole. But sometimes there's cracks in those holes, and you have to figure out what those cracks are. And it could be from childhood. It could be from, just bad trauma, experiences, whatever it may be. But if you can have someone who you're on the same page with, that you can work together marriage, I believe marriage is a beautiful thing. I'm not saying marriage is perfect.
No, by any means. By any means, yeah.
But it can be beautiful. It's somebody, hopefully you have chosen someone who that they your ride or die. Like they're going to be there. Amen. No matter what. Yeah. And they're going to love you in your frailties, in your insecurities, and you're going to love them too. You know what I mean? And you're going to continue to grow. I remember reading an article, and this is several years ago. I was having a conversation with Marzette, and because we were talking about marriage, and just sometimes the culture makes it seem like, oh, you're getting locked down. No, you have the opportunity to grow with somebody on different levels. And this particular article was written by a guy, and it was really good. And he talked about how he married his wife, and she was the girlfriend, and how she transitioned to these various phases. And she was not the same person that he started with, because they were growing together.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so his perception of her changed over time. And so it was kind of like, wow. And I feel like if you allow yourself to be in a relationship with your mate, and you can just expose yourself, so to speak. I feel like Superman, you know how Superman used to
do his chest on his
yes.
chest. Yeah.
But he didn't do it all the time. But when you have a mate that you are one with and that you can be vulnerable with, you can always open up that chest cavity, so to speak, and allow them to see your insecurities, because they're supposed to love you and all in your insecurities, because the whole thing is you guys working together to grow.
Absolutely. Now, I do want to ask you this on top of mental growth. Me being married to my wife, I loved her for being, when I wanted to marry her, I loved her for a certain thing that she did when we were together. But as I'm been married, it'll be 5 years this year, I love her for something different every single day.
Yes.
I think a lot of people say, I love you, I've loved you from this, and they usually use the same thing. I don't think that it's true. I mean, it could be, some people do love them for whatever the reason may be, but I feel like as you grow with your spouse, mentally, you're going to love them for something else. Would you? I
agree.
Okay.
You're going to, it's a growth.
Yeah.
It's a growth in the love. I mean, that's the best way I can, a growth in the love.
Absolutely. Absolutely. No, that's great. That's great. So let's switch gears here. 1 of 4 people that has some type of anxiety. Now, I don't know what anxiety it could be. It could be whatever the case may be. Can you explain some of the types of anxiety and how somebody can recognize those symptoms?
Yes.
Okay.
So one of the things, let me kind of explain, and I brought my book, and the reason why I bought it, just so people, let me kind of backtrack a little bit. One thing about mental health is, and I keep going back to our community. There's other communities that have embraced mental health long ago. Our community has not been as open. Absolutely. And I say our community, and it's Black community.
Black community, yeah,
but
we can say it.
Look, but also not only Black, because, we do have some Native American in us. Absolutely. And just the Native Americans, they haven't been as embracing as it once was, because of the history. Everything about, kind of like our genetic background is there's history behind it. And so I kind of wanted to just go to the basics so people understand when you go to counseling, the counselors train to diagnose. Now, one of the things that we use is called the DSM-5. This is the latest edition. And this is kind of like the Bible of psychology in the sense of diagnosing this mental health disorders. It has everything that we can kind of think of. And there's criteria for someone to meet in order for them to actually have a certain diagnosis, just like a doctor will. They have their
diagnose you. Yeah,
they have their list of diagnoses, and their I would call their Bible of diagnoses. And this is ours. Now, anxiety is one of those that are in here, and because I didn't want to go through, I just wanted to have a little cheat sheet. Because when you sit in any therapist's office, unless you go to someone who specializes in a particular thing, let's say depression, and that's all they do, then typically they're going to have everything memorized. But if you go to a person who's more kind of like a generalist, they're going to have tools they're going to have tools and things from various histories, but they still have to have notes because, hey, unless you just have an amazing memory. But to answer your question, there's generalized disorder, and it's just characterized by a chronic anxiety. It's just exaggerated worry and tension, and it's just like there's nothing can stop it or start it. It's just all of a sudden it's more debilitating. It hinders you from just living your life, and then it's different from there's I would say on Wednesday the inauguration. There's a lot of hoopla that's supposed to be going on surrounding that. Now that's different from I'm worried about the inauguration. From you're worrying about the inauguration even after the inauguration passes.
Gotcha.
That's still just a constant worry. That's different. A certain situation that makes you nervous. I mean, I don't want to say you have anxiety then, but if you're continually thinking about it and you're ruminating on those thoughts, and it's making you tensed, and you can't sleep, you can't eat. That's more. That's a different type. There's OCD, which is obsessive compulsive disorder, just that repetitive, making sure the door is locked. It's just something that just makes you uneasy, like you have to complete something in order to kind of feel like yourself.
Okay,
you know what I mean? So that's in panic. It's a disorder. Unexpected repeated episodes of intense fear by shortness of breath, feeling dizzy, heart palpitations. It's all these things that I'm describing. They're debilitating. There's post-traumatic stress disorder. That's when you have been exposed to trauma, and it just that it could be triggered by something very little. It could be an example is not traumatic, but it is kind of it's traumatic to my heart. There would be something that as simple as a song after Grandma Patrick passed away. I heard a song and it reminded me of her, and I started crying. And it wasn't necessarily, like I said, a bad thing, but it was just traumatic because she had passed away.
Absolutely.
Right.
I got you.
What I mean?
I got you.
And so when you have a traumatic situation that affects your mental, it could be as simple as a sound. And it triggers your emotions to be, going to like heart palpitations or, sweating profusely. I mean, it just, again. Absolutely. And then social phobias, going into like a crowded room. Now, because we're in the pandemic right now.
They should be good. They should be good right now. They living in heaven. No, I'm playing. No, I'm playing. No, go ahead. I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
But you're right. The situation has helped them.
Absolutely. Yeah. They ain't dealing with it right now.
No, they're not, because we're supposed to, be
social distancing.
Yes.
Yes,
but
ma'am.
Those are just a few to kind of just give you an understanding. And the best thing that I would say, regardless of the things that I just kind of rattled off, is if there's anything that is disrupting your life, there's something going on mentally. You know what I mean? If it is disrupting, if it's something that you cannot get under control, you need to seek help.
Okay. Well, there we go. There it is right there. And I think what you said was perfect, because sometimes I even have to check myself, and it could be as simple as me eating a breath mint and me choking on it when I was like 5 years old. So when I eat a breath mint or suck on a breath mint, it triggers me back in the church when I choked on a breath mint. So I definitely, something as simple as that can make you not necessarily. I want to say. Go sweat profusely. How do you say profusely? Profusely. Yeah. I wouldn't want to say that, but I definitely understand what you're saying on that. Back to our black community, because I really wanted to dig in on this one. And you mentioned it earlier about us kind of sweeping it under the rug. You've kind of touched on that, but what I really want to ask you is, because our black people went through slavery, went through the Jim Crow laws, and it's kind of still right now going through systematic racism by, not being able to live in a certain neighborhood. Now, they might change the rules, but they still sometimes don't approve us because they don't want us to move over there. Whatever the case may be, do you believe that we should get free counseling from, we were through that for 400 years. Do you think we should be able to get free counseling to 3 generations, or my generation, my son's generation, and then my son's generation after that, for free, in order for us to be able to mentally log back into society in the United States, and really anywhere, but specifically the United States because of what we went through. And that also goes for natives as well.
Well, honestly, I think everybody needs counseling. And if it could be free, I mean, we just need counseling for different situations. And I'm going to kind of focus on the blacks and the natives. One of the things about the natives, so years ago, there was a study. If you go on the CDC's website, National Mental Health website, even Oklahoma has Oklahoma Mental Health Association as well. There's statistics back in, I believe as a matter of fact, I think I had some. There were some statistics back in 1999 versus up into 2017. Suicide rates. White males were the highest back then. Now, according to 2017, and it takes a couple of years for studies and statistics and all those things to be updated. So I would be curious to know what it would look like in 2020, especially with the pandemic and everything. But white males tend to have been the highest, and I'm talking about in America, suicide rates. Well, now, as of 2017, Native Americans was number one. And then it went to white males. Now, black males, there's a tendency that they're lower, about fourth or so. I believe Asian and Pacific Islanders are higher than black males. But we're still climbing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
That's still an issue.
It's still an issue. Part of it has to do with us embracing therapy, embracing talking with someone. If you think about the history, now I'm going back to the blacks. If you think about the history, slavery was not abolished until 1865.
Our great-great-grandfather was a
slave.
Yeah.
Well,
great.
Yes, because it would have been, I thought about that. In 1865, Grandma Patrick was born in 1923. That was 58 years. That's a 58 years. So therefore, when she was born, that meant her grandfather or her grandmother, they were slaves. Grandma Patrick, she was very influential in our lives. So
Absolutely.
Just think, that's not that far.
Along. No, that's what I'm saying.
That's not that far. And so when you think about that mindset of how, and then you think about Jim Crow laws and how Jim Crow, that wasn't until 1965. Our mom and our dad were born, they were babies.
Yeah.
But they were born during that time, but there's still the residual effects of the mindsets. And one of the things that, because we were not afforded the opportunity to go to the doctors, like, the majority at the time, or have access, we had our faith, we had the community, and just what we believed in. And I think that we were taught to pray about it, or that we're strong. We had to be strong. But now some of those things aren't in place to make us strong, so to speak. And I said make us strong, but it's more or less the culture. Culture has shifted and changed.
Absolutely.
And because the culture has shifted and changes, there's things that I always say, we're so free, we're in bondage, because we've taken some things and we've grown, but we still haven't, in other areas in our development, we
addressed the issue at hand.
Right.
I got you. With that, I want to keep going on that. So I just think right now, everything is magnified with social media.
I agree.
With just anything in general. I mean, you can just take something on your phone, and I mean, everybody has cameras now, so it's hard to truly be private within yourself, with not nobody really knowing. You know what I mean? And that can be an anxiety too, that you think that everybody knows your business when you're truly trying to get some things taken care of inside of yourself.
Right.
And that'll make, and stop me if I'm wrong, that'll make you back away from truly seeking the help that you truly deserve, right?
Because it's pain. Who likes pain?
I don't.
Okay. And mental health pain is just, it's still, a lot of times we mask our pain. Rejection. You know, I
do not like rejection. Keep going. I don't like rejection. I ask somebody twice if they don't. Okay, I'm done. I'm good. Go ahead.
And I get it. But the thing is, this rejection is there's a root of rejection. You have to figure out what that root is, because we give rejection power. Rejection doesn't give us power. We give it power, because something happened to make us feel rejected. And then we in turn internalize that, and that's painful. You know what I mean? And so when you're making, or when the situation is making us to feel that pain that we don't like, we would do everything to mask the pain, get away from the pain, shield us from the pain, create imaginary walls.
Yeah.
This who I am.
Gotcha.
You know what I mean?
No, that's you know, God said, "Come as you are," and I'm coming as I am. Yeah, I know. I'm with you. Now continue. No, that's it. That's it right there.
So I just think that we all need help. I mean, we all truly need help for whatever reason. I mean, whatever situation that presents itself. I've like Shrek. You know, when Shrek and Shrek 1 say he's like an onion.
Yeah.
You literally, we are in essence, because once you deal with one issue, oh, I'm good, and then you keep living, there's something else that's going
under that layer,
and there's something else, and there's something else, and then if you don't sit there and address it or be willing to address it, then you would continue to walk around broken.
Got you. And the way you explained it, it makes perfect sense. And I just learned something today. So absolutely, that really just kind of brought. Who would have thought Shrek would have brought them onions?
I know, right?
And it made me truly understand.
No, because let me tell you, I know people think. I just feel like this is how God made me. I can watch a lot of animations, just because right now that's where my kids are, and they like animation, so I'll watch what they watch, because I'm not a huge TV watcher, as you know. And so I feel like God can speak to me through our lessons, I should say. I can learn lessons just watching
a kids show.
Yeah.
Zootopia is one that I love. If y'all haven't seen Zootopia, Disney Plus, y'all need to watch it.
Yeah,
it's definitely what's going on right now in this world.
Yes. Yes, that's good.
I would like to ask you this, because you are a counselor. When you listen to somebody, because everybody always tells you their problems, when they're speaking to you, does that affect you at all in any way, to where it's just like, man, it's taking a toll on your mental? Or physically and spiritually?
It does. And when I graduated from my master's program in 2005, that was the buzzword, self-care. I mean, self-care. And I remember, as a matter of fact, close to graduation, Mom, she had something heavy on her mind, and it was me, because she knew, with her being in a healthcare professional as well, she knew that I was about to encounter, on another level, other people's trauma, or what they call secondary trauma. That means me listening to
your
and
situations.
Yeah, and it could affect me, depending on the trauma. It could be maybe bring up something that I had never dealt with, and during those times, and I don't know where Mom got her statistics from, but psychologists, counselors, social workers, they had a high suicide rate. And Mom wanted to ensure that I had a plan in place. So as I'm listening to people and helping people with their problems, that if I needed to speak with someone, that to help me, process
what you heard.
what I heard, that I have things in place, because she wanted to make sure that I was healthy emotionally, to do this. And so, and I assured her that I had my things. Of course, faith is important to me.
Absolutely. We believers on here, y'all. Just want to let y'all know we believers on here. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Faith is important to me. And then, of course, my husband. And I feel not only that, but as far as, because we do sign, we have ethical boundaries where we can't discuss with anyone who's not licensed. And so I do have people that are licensed that I could always go and talk to. And there's some counselors who actually have a counselor, but then in the field you kind of create friendships, groups, so to speak, that you can go and bounce stories off of. I say stories not to say like, oh, let me tell you about this client, but no, let me tell you how this client's story affected me and why, and help. And so it could help me or another individual process, like, what was it about that person's trauma that affected me? You know what I mean? Maybe we're all broken people. It's just, how have we grown and dealt with our own traumas, our own insecurities, our own weakness, our own frailties, however you want to describe it. And what do you do after that? And so, yes, other people's traumas can affect a therapist. To say that, yes, they can. We're all human. There's no superhuman.
Yeah, the reason why I asked that is because, that's just, words are powerful.
They are.
And so whatever somebody's projecting on you to release could potentially harm you.
That is
not
correct.
Physically, but mentally.
I agree.
And so that's the reason why I asked it, because some people just don't know.
Yes.
That's true. They do think y'all are superhuman.
And we're not.
Well, my last question is do you want to talk about anything that we did not discuss? My question is, do you have anything else you would like to say?
Yeah, I think, Duan, one, I would say thank you for inviting me.
Oh, yeah.
To talk about mental health, because being a Black woman, and even a Native, yes, we have some.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mental health is really important to me. And I think it should be important to everyone, because we need help. And we only crack this conversation that you and I are having. We're just cracking
it. Absolutely.
There's mental health there's diversity. There's diversity counselors. There's substance abuse counselors. There's, it's just a whole gamut of counselors that are people who specialize in certain things in counseling, because this world, we're individuals that have a lot of moving parts that make up a person. And those moving parts, if they're not
going
in a certain way, or if it's just not developed, their lack of development, lack of love, lack of trust, lack of whatever that person is missing, they need help. You know what I mean? And I feel like I said, we are just cracking. This conversation could have gone a myriad of ways, from school counseling in the schools. Even that's changed. Back in the day, counselors used to be able to educate students on conflict resolution, how to make friends, how to just social cues, just things. And now it's just changing. The culture has changed. So it's like the counselors can't even do some of the jobs because they're more crisis managers now, or just, and
some of those things I've never had to deal with. I've never had a problem making friends.
But you wouldn't believe that there's a lot of people.
I know, I get it. No, that's what I'm saying. So some of this, what we're talking about right now, is critical, because if you don't experience, even my white colleague friends that are white privileged, and it's a discussion that we truly have to have. They haven't experienced discrimination like we have. So when they don't see it, or when they don't experience, they don't know. So they brush it to the side. Well, this ain't happening to me. That's the same thing with with myself. If I don't go through something specifically, doesn't mean I need to brush it away. Matter of fact, I need to learn up on it and try to help those that need the help. If I have not necessarily all the answers, but if I can help in any way that I can, I should. I definitely should. So no, continue. I just wanted to let you know that was spot on right there.
Well, I just think it just our culture. Again, I don't want to beat the same dead horse, but there's just if you hear people talking, go seek out help. That is the best thing. There's resources available, especially if you're Native American. Our tribe, which is Muskogee Creek, they have counselors that they employ that people can go to. There's like Creoaks and I know I think it's Green something. Green County. I think Green County Mental Health is here in the Muskogee area. That's Green County. And I do know Creoaks. They tend to travel around. There's family and children's services out of Tulsa. There's a gamut of places that you can go get help with parenting if you think you're divorced. I mean, just helping with blended families. I mean, it's just suicide. There's trauma surrounding death. There's grief counselors. I mean, there is just a gamut of therapists out there who are really good therapists that really take pride in their craft to help people. When I am seeing clients, I tend to be more of a generalist, whatever they bring to me. And one of our ethical guidelines that we have to adhere to is a duty to do no harm. And so what that means is if a person is sitting in my chair and I know they may have a great connection with me, but I know in my toolbox that I have to help is not going to help them to the degree that they really need help. My duty is to find them a therapist that will help them. Now I'm going to help them until I find that therapist to help pass them on. But my duty is to get them help. And that's what I'm going to do. But again,
you can't speak for all counselors, but is that a general thing that y'all kind of do if you feel like I can't turn this page, I'm going to refer you to somebody that I think that can help you? Is that normalized more now than it is?
Well, again, we're humans.
Okay, I'm with you. That's the reason why I'm asking. Yeah.
Yes, we're humans, but we're supposed to. I mean, someone can actually make a what's the word I'm looking for? Something against us, our license. Make reports and then they would investigate. I mean, it will. I mean, there's a process, but that we're supposed to. We're supposed to. And let me tell you, and your listeners, if that happens, don't take it as rejection. Take it as they recognize their inability to help me go to the next level or help me heal or help me address.
That's just like anything, though.
But you wouldn't believe.
No, I'm with you. I'm with you. I'm just saying that's just like anything, though. If you can't do it, I always refer somebody, and I'm just going to use Morris Moving as an example. I don't move pool tables, and I don't move grandbaby pianos, but I know somebody that can, and I'll refer you to them, and I believe that they need to take that same approach with their mental health. If you, not just you, but if you, use the example, if you can't help them, I don't see no reason why you shouldn't, refer them to somebody that, man, they've been really helping out, people in this category. Here, let me, I'm going to help you. I'm going to follow up with you, but this person is going to help you now. But hey, if you have any questions,
yes,
my number hasn't changed. You can reach me however you want to, email, text, call, or anything. So no, that is perfect. I love that you said that. Go ahead.
And one other thing that I want to mention, and then of course, is one of the things you do that I want to make sure, especially for the Black community, or any community, when you go and talk to a therapist, what you say is confidential. They don't go, I mean, if anything, OSU drilled in my head was confidential. What goes on in here truly stays in here. There are some exceptions to that rule. And those exceptions are if someone is homicidal or suicidal, and they have a plan. You know what I mean?
Wow.
Like they know, like, okay, I'm going to take this, I'm going to create these bombs and,
Wow.
or I have a plan. I'm going to go home. I have all these pills set out. I mean, if you have a plan, we have to tell. And it's not we're going to call and we're telling the authorities, we're telling someone who's on their emergency contact list, or we're trying to get them into treatment, whatever that, whatever it may be. If someone is abusing a child,
Oh, absolutely.
we have to tell. Like we could get charges too.
Oh,
you know
yeah.
what I mean? So
Yeah.
we have to tell. If someone is, and a lot of times we're telling the police, we're calling the authorities. We're
Number 2's big. You probably should have started with that. You should have started that one. Ooh, somebody messed with my son. Lord.
so
Yeah.
And number 3 is elderly abuse. If we hear somebody is abusing somebody elderly, we're telling. I mean, those are our ethical guidelines that our licensure requires of us, that it could come back on us if we don't. And typically those are the things that we have to tell. But if it's something else, I mean, it is sealed up. You know what I mean? We have, and we have to share the diagnosis. If you have insurance, you have to share it with the insurance, but the insurance companies don't get the deep, dark secrets. You know what I mean? And if someone feels like their confidentiality has been breached, then they need to contact the right authorities, the governing board. That's who you would contact, and file a complaint against the licensee. But other than that, it's confidential, and our goal is there's to be a mediator to help a person heal. That's it.
That's it.
That's
it. That's deep. That's deep. Well, we just scratched the surface, so we're gonna have to have
scratch.
We're gonna have to have another conversation. Yes, everyone, this is my sister. Yes, and we have she counsels me all the time, not knowing that she does. No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding. Thank you, everyone, for listening into this episode again. We just wanted to be mindful and respect people's boundaries physically and mentally. So I believe that this episode was definitely necessary. It's episode 10, and I wanted to end the first season. We're ending the first season with this episode with mental health. And I couldn't ask a better person than my own blood sister to help me with this. Before we get out of here today, I want to give a special shout out to my elite sponsors, Oklahoma Farm Bureau by Scott Abbott, and Interstate Properties by Holly Rosser Miller. Have a wonderful day.
The Don Dada showstopper right now is the one and only, no other. Just pulled up, lifted, and persisted, ignoring my voice of reason. I've seen things that I'll never mention. I've seen people do more for attention. Here comes Mr. Know-It-All. I know so much, but I don't listen. Lord knows that I feel that pressure. God, please forgive me for stressing. Just pulled up, lifted, and persisted, ignoring my voice of reason. I've seen things that I'll never mention. I've seen people do more for attention. Here comes Mr. Know-It-All. I know so much, but I don't listen. Lord knows that I feel that pressure. God, please forgive me for stressing.